Well, happy Thursday, everyone. This is Laurie-Ann, and I am your host of Be in Demand. And if you are wondering if public speaking is the right marketing tool for you, you're in the right place and you are listening to the right episode. Today, my friend Meg has said, and I call her friend, even though we just met, she booked a speaker breakthrough session. And these are coaching sessions and podcast episodes where somebody from the audience has raised their hand to say, yes, I would love to learn a little bit more about speaking and have some live coaching. And if you would like to book your very own speaker breakthrough session, whether you're a coach, a consultant, or you're working in corporate, stick around to the end and I will tell you how. Meg, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm excited. Could you tell me what you do, who you serve? What's the big problem that you overcome for
Well,
people?
currently, in this iteration of me in my life, I do business consulting, breathwork, and website strategy, systems, and design for coaches, healers, crystal dealers, and Gen X weirdos. That's how I've kind of did my quick little elevator pitch.
I I like that. The crystal dealer. You're my people. You are my people. I always tell people like I'm woo and I can prove it with the crystals that I got.
Yep.
Fantastic. How long you been doing all this work?
Officially, less than a year
Mhm.
for other people,
Mhm.
but I created my first website in 2012, and I have a tech background because I was in television broadcasting and multimedia for a decade as well. So I went from working 11 years in television broadcasting. I was producer, director, graphic designer, editor, and then transitioned into the wellness industry in 2013. And at that time, launched my own website and started doing all of my own business entrepreneurial work from there. Did that for a decade. And then now I've kind of combined my backgrounds in both of those worlds to create the business that I have now. This is why I help a lot of the people in the holistic health and wellness space, because that was my area of expertise as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all that and thank you for doing what you do. What would you like coaching on today?
I think what I'm missing is my focus on what I should be speaking about, because I have been public speaking. I was hired for my first corporate talk in 2013 as I was transitioning from TV into the wellness space. And I loved it. And the minute I started speaking, people kept telling me I was a natural at it. I have my own podcast. I've appeared as a guest expert in many different capacities on national television, countless times,
Mhm.
at least 20, 25 times over the years. And I spent about 7 years when I was living in Costa Rica in my holistic health era, um, facilitating workshops at a retreat center. So I would teach 6 hours of workshops per week. And I had people telling me after every class that I taught, you have such a natural gift. You're so engaging. You should be a professional speaker. And I love doing it. Like, it lights me up. And so I've been, since figuring out what I want to be when I grow up, AKA doing this web design work,
Yep.
I've been trying to figure out how I can also leverage my skills and passion for teaching, for speaking,
Yeah.
and how my story can be utilized in some capacity um, in my speaking. Because when I tell people my story, they always say it's inspiring. It should be a book. I need to speak. So there's a lot. There's a lot in the mix.
Yeah. It sounds like a big hodgepodge of stuff.
Mm.
And you're kind of swimming in it, and it's like, "How do I" what I find really surprising is that you love the speaking, which is you are forefront, but as a web designer, you're in the back. So I
Hmm.
find this is a fascinating, it's like you got a split personality.
It's true. It's true. And the only way I can explain that is I love helping people. I love
Mhm.
creating beautiful things for them that they're passionate about. But I'm also, like, I call myself like I'm a nerd. Like, I love nerding out on tech stuff, and it's so easy for me.
Mhm.
Um, I think I have a natural skill with it, but because of my background, because I took so many different technical operations courses in school, it just seemed like the next easy thing for me to get into. And it has been. The minute I launched my web design business in the world, it's been like the easiest thing. And I've tried a lot in the last 3 years. I moved back to Canada from Costa Rica 3 years ago, and I've thrown spaghetti at the wall for 3 years. And this is the first one that's sticking, and I love it, and I'm good at it, and it's helping people.
Wonderful. Okay. So if because you've got like, I've got my story that inspires people, I've got web design, I got breath work. What do you want speaking to do for you? At the end of the speech, like, what is it? This is what I always ask like my private clients. Like, you don't speak for the sake of speaking. You speak with a goal in mind, and it's to give the audience a gift. But also the second part of the foundation, what I call in the in-demand signature speech, the other part of that equation is, what do you want out of speaking? What do you want this speech to do for you?
Yeah. So obviously, I want it to turn into paying clients.
Okay.
And a big, what I've, since I signed up for this call, I've been meditating on it all a lot when I'm out for my walks. And what I've thought maybe, and I'd love to get your feedback on this, is that one of my signature talk can be about like the power of the pivot in business and leveraging skills that are transferable. Um, and doing it, like, I have made massive changes in my life that from the outside people thought I was crazy. Like when I left television to become a yoga teacher and do the Eat, Pray, Love thing in Costa Rica, people thought I was nuts. My family, it was like the only thing they could brag about me for was my successful career in TV, because I was an alcoholic. I had an eating disorder. I was bankrupt. Like my life was a mess. So when I left TV to pursue that job, people thought I was crazy. And then 10 years later, when I left my life in paradise, Costa Rica, everything looked so perfect, to move back to small town Ontario, Canada, like rural farm town country here. People thought I was crazy again. And for me, it was a shift in my own personal integrity. It was something that I needed to do to be close to my family. So, I've made massive pivots in my life and in my career for the sake of my soul.
Sounds like you're still doing the eat, pray, love thing.
I guess so, right?
Yeah.
So I end up coaching a lot of people as well, because I've been a coach for a decade in the wellness and spiritual
Yeah.
space. A
Mhm.
lot of my business clients come to me saying, build me a website, but then they bump up against,
A
well, I
lot
don't
of
really know what I
expanding.
want in my business. Oh my gosh, imposter syndrome. Am I good enough? Oh, I don't want to, I feel like I'm copying this person. So I also do business consulting, which is really a lot of mindset
Yeah.
and mental, emotional, spiritual coaching. And I incorporate breath work and somatics in that, because that's my jam too.
Right.
Hello. Us. So I do want paying clients. And I think a lot of those people that I would want to connect with when I'm speaking would be more of those kinds of clients. People that are entrepreneurs that need the support, maybe the technical, but often more the
Mhm.
emotional, the spiritual, the stepping into their power, connecting to their higher source, with that, whatever that means to them, so they can make the right decisions for them on a soul level.
So what I'm hearing from you, besides you're still living your eat, pray, love, because that's all that was, like Italy, Bali, India, like was just like those were almost like the pivots. Yes, they were visits that she was planning on, but let's relate it to your life. It's a pivot. I went from TV to yoga, and yoga to now I'm doing web design. I mean, like so you keep reinventing yourself. And I think there's a lot of people out there who would pay a lot of money to hear somebody talk about reinvention because it gives them permission, it gives the audience permission. And there was something else that you said about transferable skills. There are so many people who get stuck in, and I'll just use myself for example, like I come from healthcare. I'm in healthcare, like, how do I go from healthcare to owning my own business? I know, like, myself, 25 years ago, like, I struggled with that because I didn't see the transferable skills, and for you to tell your story in a way that not only inspires people, but we translate it into the sort of work that you do, which is, at the end, it sounds to me like it is web design. Because in order to have a beautiful design, you gotta go through all that mindset work that might be in the way. And those things that are in the way, those big obstacles, could be like your bulimia, your alcoholism, it's like just up and leaving, like, "I'm gonna try something new," but boom, there's this roadblock. And how did you deal with that roadblock? Like, I think being able to use your story, which is so many ups and downs is what I'm hearing,
Mhm.
but we never have a one and done website. It's always I was literally on a call with a client saying like, "All right, these are the things that I want you to work on for your speaker page, for your website, so that when somebody comes to your website, like, they know this is the problem that you solve, you're the right speaker for them." It's never done. It's like a piece of fine art, and your life isn't over. I mean, I can only imagine that there's gotta be at least a couple more pivots in your life. So
Probably.
everybody just stick around and keep an eye on this woman. Yeah. So I that's what I see. The obstacles that have been in your way really can just be metaphors for or examples, analogies of, like, somebody who's putting together their business and they know they're just like, "I need a website." But then it's all the stuff that comes beforehand. Those are their obstacles to getting to their fulfilling business.
Mm,
How does that feel?
it feels good. Yes. The parallel is, I can see that for sure. Yes. Yeah.
And that's so inspiring. You
Hmm.
know, this sounds funny, but in the speaking world, when somebody has some major tragedy in their life compared to like myself that I don't feel like I've had some major tragedies, I'm just like, we're always like, darn, why can't I have a good story like that? Right? Like it sounds so good on the surface, but the stuff that you had to go through to get to the other side,
Yeah.
that's the real work. But aren't we all doing the real work? We just aren't giving ourselves credit for the work that we are doing.
Yes. Yeah. And not taking the
Mm,
time to be in the, hey, look what you've done phase of it all too, right?
yes, yes,
Focus on the challenges and not on the accomplishment.
yes.
And if we do, we don't do it for very long. We're on to the next,
Right,
trying to find
right,
what's the next challenge.
right. We're constantly like moving the finish line. So I, so I see you telling your story, and you could be hired to tell this story, but there's this underlying message about the mindset, about the web design, about creating the business that you want, about doing the somatic work. I love that. I love body work, by the way. I mean, it kind of relates to that book, The Body Keeps Score, and to release some of those emotions that we've just kind of stuffed down. I can only imagine, like what your clients the results your clients get after working with you.
Yeah, it's important, and I think that's really what has been the hard part is trying to just figure out how to incorporate it all, with this big mindset, momentum, mission. Those words keep coming up for me. Like when we're building our business, yes, there has to be a mindset. Yes, we need to have the momentum in order to get towards our mission and just figuring out, mindset is important, but our mindset's not going to build us the momentum we need if our body and our nervous system aren't willing
Are
to
holding
be
you
on
back.
board. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like the bulimia.
Yeah,
That was like your weight. It held you back.
yeah,
I bet at the time, like, this was my excuse for whatever. I'm imagining. I've never been bulimic, and I don't have anybody who's bulimic in my family, so I've never been able to have that kind of a conversation with somebody. So I'm just kind of basing this on some books that I read years ago. But I would imagine, like, we all have, like, I think I just worded it in an email that I sent out today about the invisible heavy backpack. Like,
mm,
there's something that weighs us down that keeps us from moving forward. But there's a beautiful way to tell a story, to tell your own story, and use that as what attracts people to you for web design, knowing that they're going to have to do all this other work also.
right.
And by you telling your story and inspiring them, I mean, that's what's going to get people to raise their hand and say, I want that. That's the path that I want. I thought I was just wanting a new website for my potential new business, but I understand, like, having listened to you, that you have to go through this path so that you craft the business that draws in the right people that you don't dislike working with. It's like, this is like, yours is like the heaven. Come with me. We're gonna go over some mountains and some valleys, and it's not gonna be like all beaches and roses. But that's okay. You're gonna get people who are gonna raise their hand and say, "That's I wanna take that path."
Yeah. And now I think I have to rebrand my whole business to make it a whole transformational voyage.
There she goes, folks, go back to Bali.
Yes. Well, I think it's important because yeah, I really need to package, you know, sell that it is a whole package when you work with me. You know, you're gonna end up having a transformation on a personal or soul level, you know?
Yeah,
And I
and
mean
who
it
doesn't want that?
exactly. I
Because
mean,
there's so many people out there, and having been in business for so many years, I've had a number of different websites, and I've taken a number of different pivots myself. But just most of the web people, they're just like, "So what do you want?" Well, I want a website that works and attracts clients. And what do they tell you? Go out and find websites, send them to me, tell me what you like and what you don't like. And that's like a helicopter taking me to the top of the mountain.
mhm,
I didn't actually do the climbing.
yeah. Mhm. Whereas I ask them to tell me their deepest, darkest secrets and fears as an entrepreneur.
I love that. You're a very different web designer. So what do you want to know about your story?
What do I wanna know about my story?
Yeah, like in regards to speaking and using your story.
Well, I mean, it's a long story. I gave you the cliff notes. And I guess what I need to just really figure out is how I want to figure out the lessons and the teachable moments, the metaphor for the different phases of my life. I think that's going to be important when it comes to working out the talk. Because I can tell my story and I've told my story so many times. And it starts with childhood sexual abuse and blackout drunk and by the time I was 15 and then it moves into my career in television and my bulimia. I swallowed a spatula when I was 29 years old trying to make myself throw up and I ended up at the ER. And this was in a 15-month period that I was with a emotionally controlling fiance. My father was diagnosed with frontal temporal dementia, which is what Bruce Willis has. My nephew at 6 years old was diagnosed with a brain tumor and went under brain surgery. I had a horrible breakup with that fiance. The police were involved. Then my father was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, and then he died. And then, like it was just like this 50, and it was all that was 15 months of my life.
Okay, so you don't just have a backpack. You're like trying to tow a truck with a bunch of rocks in the back. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a way that you don't one of the things about storytelling and even about crafting your speech is you don't have to let all the details get in the way of a good story. Sometimes we feel like, but these are all the things that happened in 15 months. You don't have to tell them all. Like your dad got diagnosed. We don't have to like label all the different diseases that dad got diagnosed with. It could just be like something that's a rather high level. But instead of you starting from your story and let me find all the lessons in my story, I would rather you map out the journey of your ideal client.
Right.
And then let's tie it in with with your story.
Okay.
And that's where we'll probably add a few more steps into your story so that your client's journey, because you probably got several different clients and they'll actually take different paths, but they're pretty much on the same map. They're on this pretty much the same path. They just might come into the story at different points, but we want your audience to feel like, "That's me.
Mm.
That's me." And so they're hearing your story, and you're telling the story, and this is kind of like, I knew what I wanted. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be joyful. I looked around at other people and admired, how is it that they know what they wanna do in life? Why do they look like they're so put together when my life, like, I look at mine, and I'm totally ad-libbing here and putting words into your mouth, but,
Yeah.
like, your client is going to like, "Oh, yeah, that's me too," and you're correlating it with a business, and if you're an entrepreneur, a coach, a consultant, you probably got this like, "I want a business. Why isn't my business working?" And most of the time we think it's because of the website. And the website, this is what I know after doing, hundreds of websites, thousands of websites, I'm not sure. Like, so now we're starting to build in your authority that you've done so many websites, and this is the kind of work that I help my clients do. You're gonna run into obstacles. I can't just make you a pretty website. That's not the kind of web designer that I am.
Mm.
There's a process to this, like the process when I gave up alcohol. It was hard. It wasn't easy. Do you see what I'm doing?
Right.
I'm weaving in your story without even knowing, like, all the details, just the highlights, and I'm trying to relate it to somebody who's sitting there in the audience and they're like, "Oh, I thought I wanted a web page. I thought I wanted my website redone, but I see that there's more to it so that I get to the top of the right mountain."
Yeah. Yeah.
How's all that feel?
That feels good. And
Mm.
it feels a lot more doable to kind of reverse engineer this, uh, the speech, 100%, the talk.
And your
Yep.
speech there'll be so many different ways that you can use it. Because somebody may hire you like, "Oh, you're a web designer. Yeah, we'd love to have a web designer come in." And you're gonna have to tell the meeting planners, "I come with a story." And it's an inspiring story and it's a hard story. But I weave in about having a website and what it does for your business. And
Right.
then there's gonna meeting planners who are gonna say, "We heard about your story. Would you come in and tell your story?" And you still tell the same story, and now you're using it as it's kinda like if you're trying to write and craft and develop your own new website. Sure, you can do it on your own, and you're just gonna end up copying a lot of other people. It's kinda like, I couldn't have done XYZ without having therapy.
Hmm.
So you start relating it. So it's almost so that you're still telling your story. And then there's this underlying message about you have a business and this is what you help people do.
Right. Love it. So good.
Any other questions?
Um, so how do I, no, I was going to make a joke about making it all into how do I get famous doing it? But just kidding. I don't care about.
You got a good story.
Well, it is a book too. I've been writing the book form, a version of it all since 2012. I just haven't had the bandwidth with my kids and all of that. So I hope to get back to that in the next 5 years. So, yeah.
And that's a nice thing to have at the end that people can buy your book. They can buy your story. So a book is something that people don't throw away.
Hmm.
Versus, they scan a QR code on a slide, but then they go and they clean up all the web pages that are open and then they forget. So having a book is it's in the back of the room, and it's also a great way to negotiate for an organization that doesn't have the budget to pay for you. We can always like buy a book for everybody that's going to be attending the conference, the event. And now that actually comes out of a different budget and not the speaker budget. It comes out of the education or the gift budget. And different conferences call it different things, but it's a nice way to be able to negotiate a little bit more money or even just to find creative ways to get paid.
I love that. And this has also given me some stuff to chew on when it comes to the book because I have the story component of the book, but I don't want it to be a memoir. I want it to be a teachable. Like, I want each chapter to have something tangible that people can walk away from with, and I feel like what we talked about, just paralleling it and metaphoring it to becoming who you want to become in business and in life, and doing that, from the soul transformation work, will be super helpful.
Both of my books are modern day parables. So they're told in a very story format. And each chapter, at the end of each chapter, there are 3 questions that I ask the reader. And the intention is to deepen the learning. So maybe something like that. That's the only reason why I wanted to share that with you, since you want a transformation for the reader to be able to have those, here's what I want you to do next. Like, pull out your journal, answer these questions, meditate on these questions.
Yes.
But there are different ways to write a book too. And I chose to write a parable because I wanted it to be entertaining while people learned the lessons.
Right. Yeah. And I think ideally that's what I would like to.
Mhm.
And inspirational.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
So good.
What's 1 or 2 gold nuggets that you're walking away with today?
Well, definitely reverse engineering the talk. And, I feel like I know there's different organizations that I'll be working with. I've already got a few coming down the pipe for 2026. And so I can curate the talks specifically to the journey for each of those audiences. In the way that you spoke. So coming up with their journey and then matching my life story and the lessons to that journey. That's going to be a huge help. And that just clarifies so much for me. And also, I think you just relit the fire under me to get my book, start working on my book, because it shouldn't be the thing I do later. It should be the thing I'm doing now, because there's so much benefit to having it done now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to set my alarm at 4 a.m. to do some writing.
I had a client who, when I met him, he was in the military and he had a family, and he would get up at 4:30 to write for an hour before his family started to get up.
Yeah.
Meg, thank you so much. Would you tell people where they can learn about you, follow you, and just watch your progress?
Well, I am most active on social media on Instagram at Coach Meg Pearson, and my website, where all of my web design and coaching, consulting, all of that is listed, as well as my speaker page, Laurie-Ann, that you
Thank
told me on your
you.
podcast to have one. So I made one like 2 weeks ago.
I'm gonna go check it out.
My website is Rebel Soul Media, because people say that I'm a bit of a rebel soul. So Rebel Soul Media, that's the name of the biz. And that's .ca.
.ca. Thank you very much for sharing that. Meg, thank you so much for coming on to the show. And until next week, I want you all to be in demand. And if you would like to book your own speaker breakthrough session, hold on. Are you tired of hearing crickets on social media? Wondering where to get seen by the right people? Or frustrated with the growth of your business? Then the speaker breakthrough session is just for you. During this free 20-minute discovery call, I'll help you recognize where you're leaving money and opportunity on the table. You'll walk away with tips and a strategy to leverage speaking opportunities to get positioned as the expert, visible to the right people, and monetize your expertise. Book your call at speakandstandout.com/SBS for speaker breakthrough session.